they give an award out for, believe it or not, most of the people in here that are players, coaches, and fans don't give a rat's tushy about refereeing, but we do. So they give an award out every year, and I got it a few years ago. So Delaware County, when Jim called me, he said, I want you to do some opening remarks. I said, well, you got all these people here. Why don't they do? He says, well, you're from Delaware County, your father, Delaware County, your brother, Delaware County, and I'm just going to tell you what it meant to me. We came out of the city in '56 when my father made the big leagues. He was Shad Crawford, Major League Baseball umpire. Ed probably knew him from the golf, and a lot of people in here. He was a good dude, and he made the big leagues in '56. We came out to Delaware County. My brother Jerry was in the big leagues for 35 years, had a great career, and we started our officiating in Delaware County. And Jim gave me an opportunity, which is always stuck in my craw, that I didn't get a chance to thank the people that helped me. I was a 19-year-old kid, and I wanted to ref. I didn't care about playing or any of that crap because of my father. So when I started, I came back from college, didn't do real well. Didn't want to talk about that. So came back to Havertown, and I said to my dad, I want to start refereeing. Basketball was my thing, and I always wanted to be an NBA ref. That's all I ever wanted to do. Didn't want to be at the Palestra, didn't want to be any of that. I wanted to be in the NBA. So I said, I know a few people around the area, and the first guy I called was a guy by the name of Dan Smetty. I don't know if many people in here know, but Dan started me refereeing. He was a Drexel Hill guy, Delaware County. I got games from Ed Borio from Swarthmore. There were hundreds of leagues back then, hundreds. Everybody was playing. You didn't have the computer, you didn't have all this crap, everybody played. And they were good leagues, and the players were hard. It was brutal. And a lot of those games were one man, just one ref. Not two, not three. Now we, in the NBA, my job now, I got a job when I retired, they gave me a job in management. They're tinkering with 4 refs. I was like, 4, jeez, God. I did it with 1, you know? So I was walking into these places, I was 19, 20 years old, and those players were brutal. But what they made me do was be tough. And every night I'd come out of those gyms, I wanted to kill somebody. And they wanted to kill me. And it was just an awesome, awesome upbringing. There was Ed Borio, Frank Callum, Dan Smetty, Phil Atwood. Got my first high school game from Lou Bond. He was a Havertown guy. And that was a big deal when you got your first high school game. It was a big deal. That guy, everybody was Delaware County. But this is wild. It's a lady by the name of Mary Callahan. She was from Sea King. And she had about 7 or 8 leagues that she was signed. And her husband was Dick Callahan. Now, Dick was a college referee. Dick passed away at 48 and left 8 kids. Well, Mary continued to assign those games. She assigned the games, and she took 10% of your money. You didn't care. She had 8 kids. Gave her 10%. What's the big deal? You were getting $8. She got 80 cents. You guys can figure that out pretty good, right? Pretty relatively intelligent people here. So let's fast forward. I make the NBA in '77. Mary's son, Duke Callahan, Sea King guy, makes the NBA 15 years later. Terrific referee. Right? He makes the NBA. I call his mom, who's living at the time. Mary, Joe Crawford. congratulations on your son. She said, Joe, thank you very much. It's awesome. I said, Mary, now that your son's in the NBA, and he's making a pretty good buck, how about you return the 10% you took out of it? It was awesome. It was awesome. But, Jim, thank you very, very much for giving me the opportunity to do this. I always wanted to thank those people and really, really didn't get the opportunity to do it because, to be very honest with you, I probably was selfish. Made the NBA at 25, thought I was a big-time guy, right? And didn't get the opportunity to go back and thank those people. And I give you a lot of credit for letting me come up here. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Third of the NBA Finals?
I have my first year in the finals. Listen, Muhammad Ali had a great line. It ain't bragging if you did it. So I'm bragging because I did it. My first year in the finals was '86. I went to the finals every year till 2016. I got suspended in 2007. We don't want to talk about that. That was a Tim Duncan thing. I got into a big row with him and got suspended. But for 30 years, I got one of those jackets, and you guys aren't getting them.
And unfortunately, when Joe went to school, he did not go to any finals. So that was the problem, right, Joe?
What's that?
You didn't go to any finals when you were in school.
Very good.
We're here today with Joey Crawford, a longtime NBA official, and Joey, we're glad that you could be here today. And
Delaware County, it's the best.
And what you've donated to our museum.
Thank you.
But can you just briefly? You're a 1969 graduate of Cardinal O'Hara.
Yes, I was. 50 years coming up, Rich.
Yeah, but how do you go right kind of to the NBA without? I think people think you have to be a college ref first and then you go to the NBA, but you never did college games.
No, I didn't. I always wanted to be an NBA ref, so I was lucky. In Philadelphia, you had all these leagues in Delaware County. There were tough leagues. But I was lucky. I had the Baker League in Philly, which was a Sonny Hill and Mo Howard, and all those people took care of me. And then we had the Eastern League. So they were pro leagues, and I was lucky. They put me in those leagues. I was a kid. I was 22, 23 years old. And then I was in the NBA at 25. So I was just a guy that I was lucky. My father being Shag Crawford, I knew that you could work professional sports as an official. So when I went to watch 76ers games, or if I watched a pro game, I watched the refs. I didn't care that it was Wilt Chamberlain or Hal Greer or Dave Gamby or any of those guys. I watched Mendy Rudolph. That's what I did.
I know at one time, I think there were about 50 to 60 referees in the NBA. 10 of them were from Delaware County,
yes.
And 4 of them were from the same high school, your high school,
right.
At one time, right?
Right.
Who were the 4 from Cardinal? How are you?
It was me, Duke, and Eddie Malloy. We don't talk about the 4th one.
Yes, I remember that. And would the first official from Delaware County be Jake O'Donnell?
Very good, Rich. Jake O'Donnell was a Clifton guy. Eddie Middleton was an Ardmore guy. Mark Lindsay, who's in the NBA right now, was raised as his people were all from the Seacane area. So it was just the great thing about it was I was working a CYO game at a Mother Good Counsel. When I was 19 years old, Jake O'Donnell was in the NBA. He came to the gym to give me pointers. So that is why it fast-tracked you, because you had all these people. Like if I was in the Baker League, Joe Gashu, who lived in Philly, would come and watch my games, and he would give me pointers. So we were really, really lucky.
Now, people have asked me, they said, well, we don't see Joe on the court anymore. What exactly are you doing now?
I work for the NBA. It's called I'm a director of referee performance. The NBA has a referee department. and we're responsible for the NBA refs, the G League refs, which is the minor leagues of the NBA, and the WNBA refs. And we're busy. We're real busy, and I teach refereeing is what I do.
So you're never retiring.
I am not retiring. My wife will not let me retire. I wouldn't want to live with me either.
Well, listen, Joe, thanks for coming
Rich,
today,
thank
man.
you. No, my
Really
pleasure.
appreciate
Anytime.
it. All right.
Anytime. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you.
Okay, we're here today with Shannon Grady, one of the greatest track stars in the history of Delaware County. Shannon, could you tell us what you're doing now, though? I wanted to tell the people what you were just involved in.
Now I'm competing on an international level for triathlon, so I just raced at the World Championships. I've been part of Team USA for 6 World Championship competitions, so.
And that's triathlon.
Triathlon, yep, that's correct. So still kicking away at the ripe age of 43, still competing at a high level.
And do you have a sponsor someone who's a running group that sponsors you, or you're part of the USA team?
Yeah, part of Team USA, yeah.
Now, the exercise, I know you have a degree from Florida in exercise physiology, but can you explain what you actually do with the teams in Bermuda?
Yeah, so I'm a physiologist, sports physiologist, and right now I'm the physiologist for the Olympic sports for Bermuda. So essentially what I do is I go in, I test all the athletes and put together the training plans for all the Olympic sports, consult with the coaches just to make sure that their training that they're doing is basically geared towards competing at the Olympic Games. And I also consult a lot of other college teams and national teams around the world. So.
And how long have you been doing this?
Since 1999.
And do you still have your other business?
Yeah, so this is all part of my company, so people hire me. Yep.
And what is the name of your company?
Go Athletics.
Go Athletics.
Yeah.
And when you were at Sun Valley, and you were involved with high school track and cross country too,
Yep.
what was what event stands out the most that you accomplished? And I was going to say something at the Penn Relays. Would that?
I would say it would be the Penn Relays. Junior year, our team won the Championship of America in the distance medley. We set an American record. So that was really fun as a team event. And then the next year, I followed up winning the individual title. So I think that Penn Relays is definitely more of a magical event for kids in this area, for sure. Yeah.
Well, listen, Shannon, it was great. I'm glad you could make it today. I'm going to let you eat lunch.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. I'm here today with Reverend John Cartwright, who was an outstanding all-around athlete at Sharon Hill High School and later played quarterback at the Naval Academy. John, we're happy that you could be here today.
Thank you, Rich.
What I wanted to ask, someone told me besides being an all-Delco quarterback at Sharon Hill that you had a chance to maybe play minor or Major League Baseball?
I did. I had an offer from the Athletics when I was in high school. And in those days, they were in Kansas City. And a man named Luke Krause had just signed a contract from Chester, Pennsylvania. And so they were up in Delaware County again and talking to me about it.
And you, what position? You were a catcher?
I was a catcher, yes.
Now, you didn't pursue that, obviously, because of you were able to get a scholarship to Naval Academy. Now, at that time, did you have to get a written letter from a politician to go to any of the service academies?
Right. We had an appointment from a congressman to be able to get into the Naval Academy. And then I also joined the Navy Reserve my 11th grade year of high school with that intention to go to the Naval Academy.
And at the Naval Academy, they always talk about the records you broke, of course, of Roger Staubach's, who was, I guess, how many years before you got there was he there?
Well, he was a senior my freshman year. So when he graduated, I shared the quarterback position with another friend of mine, Bruce Bickle, and then started the next 2 years.
You started your junior and senior year. And when you think back at playing at the Naval Academy, it would have to be an Army-Navy game, I guess, but which one stands out in your mind?
Well, it would have to be the senior year. We tied my sophomore year. We lost my junior year. And my senior year, Army was 8-1 and was favored to win by a lot. And we came out and beat them 19-14.
Now, was there a chance of you playing professional football?
Well, I had a letter from the Chargers about playing, but God just had some other plans for me. And, you know,
Right.
I went from there to serve in the military for 5 years. And by then I knew I was going to go in the ministry.
But I think a lot of people don't realize that you were a college coach at Jerry Falwell's university.
Yes, actually, I followed another Delaware County guy named Rock Royer, who was from Ridley, and Rock was our head coach. He passed away suddenly in an aircraft accident, and then I became the head coach for 3 years there.
For 3 years. And does Liberty Baptist or Liberty University, do they still have football now?
Yes, they do. They just actually went into the Division I ranks, and a couple years ago they opened their season with a win over Baylor. And so they got whipped by Syracuse a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, that's the level they're playing at now.
Well, listen, John, it was great having you here today. I'm going to let you go eat lunch and spend time with your grandchildren.
Thanks, Rich.
Thank you.
All right.
We're here today with Carl Gerstbach, one of the great football players from Delaware County, all-Delco player at Swarthmore High School, and later spent some time playing at Duke, and then, of course, at Westchester, and 7 years in the NFL. Carl, what I wanted to ask you, your father played at Duke?
No, he was a tailback at the University of Rochester.
Okay, I knew that he played in college. I got that confused with you going to. So your coach at Swarthmore was Millard Robinson.
Yes, and he was a great man and a great influence in my life, and a great coach. And he one time threw his clipboard down on the practice field, Rich, and he said he always used the term gads, and he goes, "Gads, when they made me, they threw away the mold." And we are all, his nickname was Coach. We all called him Coach, and all the players are looking at each other and saying, "No dish, Coach. You're different than the rest of us."
Well,
Wonderful man, great coach, great influence in my life.
yeah, I was wondering because after you obviously got some attention and you ended up going to Duke for that year. So
Right.
they were playing Division I football, and you're at Little Swarthmore High School in Delaware County. How did Duke come about?
Well, there was a good chance that I was going to go to West Point, but I was also being recruited by Duke, and I decided to go there. And the only problem I had at Duke is I didn't go to class. And at Duke, you got to go to class. I mean, in Westchester, I went to class and completely changed my academic career around. One of my favorite stories from Duke is playing Notre Dame in 1966. I was a 216-pound pulling guard. I was playing offense at that time. And that was the year that Notre Dame tied the national championship with Michigan State. So we traveled out to Notre Dame, and we got all hyped up, and we were going to give them a game. And the first play on offense, I always thought what you want to do is fire out and let the guy know that you're there to play. And I was playing, the guy playing over me was Pete Duranka. He was 245 pounds. I was about 215. And he was renowned for being able to run across the field, dive in the air, come on his hands, and flip up on his feet. So he was also very agile. First play of the game, they call the run. I fire out. I hit Pete Duranka. Everything goes dark. And the reason everything goes dark, I'm sitting on my butt, and I'm looking out the ear hole of my helmet. And I said to myself, this is going to be a long day.
Oh.
And it was. They beat us, I think, like 63-13.
But I want to mention that on that team was Alan Sack, who you played against in high school. Alan Sack was at Notre Dame in 66.
Okay, I wasn't aware. Where
Yeah.
did Alan Sack play?
He went there as a quarterback, but Eric
Okay.
Parsegan made him a defensive end.
Okay.
So I don't know if
Well, that team was loaded.
Yeah,
I mean,
they
had
Carl Page, the Alan Page.
They had Alan Page. They had Terry Hanratty. I mean, they just were loaded, and they were a very tough team to play.
Now, did he help you with making that transfer to Westchester? Because Millard played at Westchester for Glenn Killinger, I know.
Yeah.
And I thought maybe he had some,
Well, he did, and I had some interest from some schools, and I told my father, I said, you know what, I want to stay local. I want to get my academic career back, and I don't want to have to be taking a scholarship or something like that. So it just worked out really well. And I had a great time at Westchester. We had a great team, met a lot of nice people, and I met my wife. Have 48 years now. We just in June celebrated our 48th year of marriage, and I couldn't have asked for more. So it all worked out well.
So when you're at Westchester, are you thinking, I'm going to be in the NFL someday?
It was always a dream of mine, and I was hoping I could, and I was disappointed because I was scouted, but I wasn't drafted. And then this is another story you'll like. I signed as a free agent. My signing bonus was $1,500. $750 when I signed, and $750 if I didn't chicken out and reported to camp. And I'll never forget, right before camp, I had this nightmare, and I was on the sidelines and dressed for the game, but I hadn't gotten in yet, and there was blood all over the field. People's heads were rolling, and in the second half, I was in my street clothes in the stands.
Well, I'll tell you, Bruce Unovich thinks highly of you.
Oh, great.
And you helped him. He always talks about that tackling technique that he said Carl Gerstbach was helped me out a lot on playing defense.
Bruce, great athlete. From obviously a football family, and his father was a great coach and also a great player. And Bruce was fantastic linebacker, fast as a deer at running, and tough, really tough. And we had a lot of fun together.
Well, listen, thanks. 7-time or in the NFL for 7 years, Carl Gerstbach. Thanks, Carl.
Rich, thank
you.
And
I'll let you go eat.
Okay, thanks.
All right. Today we have Bob Rigby, who from Ridley High School in East Stroudsburg, All-American, was a goalie playing professional soccer for 13 years. Bob, I wanted to ask you, because I remember the story pretty well, but I don't know if you do. I'm sure you might.
Okay.
You were playing soccer at Ridley in 10th and 11th grade. We had a certain student who was the goalie who ended up moving.
Yes.
And
Cartwright.
And Jack Preston, who was the coach,
Yes.
asked you, because we were in the same phys ed class, if you wanted to be goalie.
Right. I started playing soccer in 10th grade because I was terrified of trying to, see how deep the football program would be on the 7th string. And played JV, really enjoyed it. Carl Snellenbach was my coach. And in the summer before senior year, Jack came up, and our goalie had moved. We had a really good team. I was a pretty good athlete, but pretty nondescript, but all round, and just proved to be a perfect fit. Our Gene Pott was a Dutch Polynesian player. His father was Dutch, who was a goalkeeper. He came up with me every night that year, and I didn't have any bad habits because I didn't have any habits. And that was the beginning of a pretty good run of avoiding work for about 17 years.
And we ended up going to East Stroudsburg together, both health and phys ed majors.
Right.
And
I can still see you trying to figure out which olive you were going to get out of the. We won't get into our East Stroudsburg stories, but.
Well, actually, I was a history major, and I think I made the switch to health and phys ed, and we got a little bag with the sneakers and the shirt and the shorts. But you played goalie, but I think you rotated with somebody on the freshman team, didn't you?
I think I was the first freshman that ever played varsity, and I played about half the year. There was a a senior who actually was an All-American tennis player. Gilbert Townsend was his name. And that year I played a bit, and then, was the starting goalie for the final 3 years.
And got drafted by the Adams. I'm down the shore. I'm looking at in the magazine store, and there you're on the front of Sports Illustrated
Right.
with Kyle Rote Jr.,
Right.
whose father played for the New York Giants. He was playing for the team that you guys beat.
And Kyle, who our careers paralleled because we were both rookies the same year, and Kyle won the Superstars competition for 7 years. I was the second soccer player that the league was pushing to get into Superstars, and that was another, just an amazing experience. Lynn Swan, Franco Harris, Preston Pearson, Terry Metcalf, Lou Ferrigno. Lou Ferrigno in the bicycle race went by me. It looked like an eclipse going by, and I was screaming at him because he was cutting in front of me. Lou was deaf. So
Yeah.
I'm screaming at a deaf. No, just a lot of good times.
Well, you did set the half-mile record, I think, at the Superstars.
I set the half-mile record. I remember looking at, there's Lynn Swan, Terry Metcalf, David Emery, who was the 800-meter Olympic gold medalist. And I knew that if I didn't take it out, I was always a pretty good runner, and I could, I had stamina. I didn't have speed. And I took off, and I never looked back. And maybe about 10 yards from the end, I finally looked back, and Lynn Swan was about 400 yards back because they just said, we don't need to do this. This guy probably does. But
So after your professional career, you did coach a little bit at Ridley and Swarthmore College, or
I coached at Penn. I really didn't enjoy coaching when I started training goalkeepers. I really enjoyed that, so I did a lot of training. I coached at Penn for a few years, and then FC Delco, ran camps and that kind of thing. At the age of 50, I haven't been involved in soccer at all since that.
And can you just briefly tell the people out there what you're doing now? You started a business.
For 27 years, I ran the student assistance program at the Ridley School District. This is the 25th year. I built a private psychotherapy practice. I'm out in Wayne, just up the road, and I'm actually winding that down. So I'm trying to do nothing, and we'll see how that goes.
It's called retirement, isn't it?
I think so. Well, I hope it's called retirement.
Bob, thanks. It's
All
a
right,
pleasure,
good
man.
seeing you.
We'll let you eat.
Thank you.
Carbs, a few carbs there with bread. No,
protein,
all
baby,
protein.
You go on the carbs.
We're here with Mickey Morandini, member of the 1993 National League champs, the Philadelphia Phillies. And I guess you were with the Phillies for what, 8 years?
Let's see, almost 9 years and a couple years in the minors, so long time.
Yeah. And something that Jimmy didn't mention that I wanted to ask Mickey about, he was also a member of the 1988 United States Olympic baseball team. Can you tell us a little bit about that, Mick?
Yeah, that was an awesome time for me. I had to decide. I got drafted by the Pittsburgh Pirates in '87, and that was the team I followed growing up. So I had to make a decision: do I want to go back to school and try and make the Olympic team, or sign with the Pirates? But I went back to school because I wanted to be able to play for our country, and it worked out. I made the team. We went on to win the gold medal in Seoul, Korea, and I just had a blast with some great teammates.
Yeah, who did you guys beat in the finals to win the gold?
Oh, we beat Japan. Yeah, we played, I don't remember all the teams that were there, but I know we beat up on Canada and South Korea and some of those other teams, and went into the game against Japan, and Jim Abbott threw a gem for us, and we won.
And who was the manager of that team?
Mark Marquis. He was the head coach at Stanford for a long, long time.
And, I find that really interesting because I don't know how many guys playing Major League Baseball now have been on Olympic baseball teams, because I think the baseball has been taken out of the Olympics.
Yeah, it was there in '84 in L.A. and then in '88 with us, and then I don't know after that they might have had used college kids or minor league players, but it's coming back. I think in next summer's Olympic team, but it had been taken away for quite a long time.
Yeah, in Japan, 2020, I believe. But anyway, listen, Mickey, it was nice having you here today, and thanks for coming, and it's nice seeing you.
Thanks. Had a great time.
Okay.
Thank you.
See you, Mick.
All right.
We're here today with Ed Daugherty, St. James baseball player and bowler, and also later in life on the PGA Senior Tour. Did you play? You played for John Mooney at St. James.
Sure, Mr. Mooney, yep.
And did you guys win a Catholic League championship in baseball?
Yes, we did in 1963 and 1965.
And you were a pitcher.
I was a pitcher. I played other positions, but mainly I was a pitcher.
And
In fact, Mr. Mooney told me I should take up a sport where I didn't have to run after I hit the ball, so that's how I started playing golf.
well, yeah, it is good. Did you, when you won the Catholic League championship, did you then play the public league?
Yeah, I played up at Connie Mack Stadium in 1965. 64, we lost the Catholic League championship. 63, they won the Catholic League championship and everything. So, yeah, I did play at County Mack Stadium. John Bartram beat us.
Now, after high school, did you go into service right after high school?
No, I didn't. I played in the Delco League for Eureka Red Sox. I was a pitcher, and I played, and then I got a job in the post office, and I was one of the few people in America who ever delivered his own draft notice. And July 19th, 1967, I did that. So went in the Army, went to Vietnam, came back, and I wanted to play baseball in Fort Lewis. You know, I knew we were going to get stationed. I knew where my appointed station. So I used to throw baseballs. I can tell you a long story about me and Ernie Banks if you want to hear that one. But
Well, yeah.
can we start all over?
Yeah, why don't you tell that?
all
Yeah.
right. Okay. And I say it's like January 1969, and it may have been like December of 68. I'm not exactly sure, but I was a squad leader. We had gotten overrun, and we lost everybody, and then I became a squad leader. And I didn't trust my squad to pull guard duty all night because I was becoming a short timer. So I would sleep in the morning till about noon or, and 1 o'clock. And they had a USO show come, and my squad came down and woke me up, and they said, "Hey, Ed," he says, "come on, we want you to come down. Ernie Banks wants to meet you." I said, "Yeah, Ernie Banks wants to meet me. I'm out in the jungle in the I-Corps area up in Vietnam, northern shore, whatever you want to call it." And sure enough, I go down there, and there's Ernie Banks. And damn, I said, this is a Hall of Famer. He's still playing. He's still active. So Ernie Banks says, "I hear you're a pitcher." And I said, "Yeah." I says, "The guy from our squad wrote the Red Sox, and they sent 144 baseballs. All the time I ever wanted to catch a baseball, a foul ball or everything, I'm in Vietnam, and this guy has 144 American League baseballs." So I got about 20 of them, 25 of them, and I would throw it at sandbags at our ammo dump, at our mortar pit. And I'd put an X and a Y and try to aim at it, and they're trying to get ready to go play in Fort Lewis. So I go down, and I'm walking down, and there's Ernie Banks, and he says, "All right," he says, "you're a pitcher, I heard. I hear you're throwing balls up there in the sandbags." I said, "Yeah, I do that." He says, "Really?" He says, "What do you throw?" I said, "What do you want to see? I'm 20 years old. What do you want to see?" I'm telling the Hall of Fame. He says, "Really?" I said, "Yeah." He says, "Well, tell me what you got." I says, "Fastball, in shoot, curve, drop, a change-up, and a slider." And he says, "You got all those pitches?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "All right." Pete Reichert was there. Pete walks off 60 feet. Ernie Banks said, "Now look, he doesn't have a cup on." He says, "If you throw him, you got to let him know what he throws." I said, "All right." So he says, "You ready?" I said, warmed up. I go, and he steps back, and I throw. He says, "What is that?" I said, "That's a fastball." He says, "All right." He says, "What are you going to throw now?" I said, "The in-shoot, So Ernie Banks steps up, and he says, "That's your fastball. Remember that in-shoot, that's your fastball." I said, "All right," So he says, "Let's see your curve." I threw the curve, and then I threw the drop, and he walks in, and he says, "That's your curveball, that drop. Remember that." I said, "All right, that's good." He says, "Change." And then I throw the slider, and he says, "Throw that again." And I throw it again, and throw it again. He says, "Where'd you learn that pitch?" And I says, "My father taught me that when I was about 14 years old." And I said, "A scout for the Pittsburgh Pirates told me I had the best high school slider he's ever saw." He says, "What was his name?" And I knew the name at the time, and he goes, "Oh, I know him. He's with the Pirates." I said, "Yeah." He says, what are you doing here, in Vietnam? And I said, I got drafted. And he goes, evidently by the wrong team. So I let that go, all right? Good. As a favor, not as a favor, as a thank you, in my way of thanking, whenever the Cubs came to town, I take my dad up to Veterans Stadium and we'd watch. Never thinking that I should have went down there and thanked him or anything. So we jumped, 10 years, 1977, 78, could have been 79, I don't know exactly what year it is, where I'm on the PGA Tour. We room with Slugger White. We're in the Western Open out at Butler National, and it's a clubhouse it's a unique clubhouse, and we're down in my locker room. It's a Wednesday practice day, and all hell breaks loose up there. It's like Pigpen, on the show on the cartoons, moving around, and you can look up, and I said, oh, there's Ernie Banks, and Slugger said, who? I said, Ernie Banks. I said, I met him in Vietnam. Slugger White, who's now an official on the PGA Tour, he says, oh, Ed, you met everybody in Vietnam. I said, Slugger, I met him in Vietnam. I said, he'll remember me, I'll bet you. He says, well, go head up there, Mr. Big Stuff, and talk to him. I said, I can't go up there with all those cameramen. He's a star in Chicago. He's Mr. Chicago. So we went out on the range. So I'm hitting balls, and Slugger's hitting balls, and he turns around, Slugger's over there, and he says, hey, Ed, he says, there's your buddy Ernie Banks over there. Why don't you go over and say hello to him? So I said, well, I will, because, only players are on there. So I walked over, and I'm standing about as far as the front of the camera is, and he looks at me, and I look at him, and he looks again. I said, Ernie, I said, my squad woke me up in Vietnam. He says, you're the pitcher. I said, yeah. He says, damn it, I've been looking for you. He says, I've been looking in the minor leagues. He says, I often wondered whatever happened to you. He says, it was the darndest thing you'd ever want to see. He says, they woke you up. You came out, and we're in a jungle, and you're rubbing your eyes like you just woke up, like nothing's bothering you. He says, you impressed me more than anybody I've ever seen. I said, get out of here. He says, no. He says, I said, oh. He says, well, what are you doing here, caddying? I said, no, I'm not caddying. I'm playing. I'm a player on the PGA Tour. He said, I thought you were a baseball player. I said, well, they wouldn't let me play baseball, so I decided to play golf.
What a great story.
And he says, you're out here on a tour. And I said, yeah. And I said, hold on. Slug, you want to see my good friend Ernie Banks over here? And that's how we ended it.
That's a great story. You were on the senior tour for how many years?
I was on the regular tour from 1975 to 1998, and then on some senior tour about 10 years. But This was the regular tour. This is
the regular tour. Okay.
This is 1978. 78 or 79. I don't know exactly what year it is, but
which is one of the toughest things in sports to make.
That's thank you, but that's you said that. I did.
Yeah,
I was just trying to do it. That's all. But I was lucky.
Well, listen, Ed, great story. Nice talking to you. Thanks for coming today.
Okay.
Appreciate
Thanks for
it.
having me.
All right. We have here today Eddie Swain, Mr. Biddy Basketball, Chester High, one of the great basketball players in the history of Delaware County. Eddie, can you tell us a little bit about that Mr. Biddy Basketball in 1964?
Well, we're going pretty far back, Rich, but I can tell you something. Matter of fact, when I was making the most valuable player of the whole tournament, I was also being invited to Puerto Rico. But I mentioned to the ball players of the Puerto Rico team that I'm not going unless the team is going. So they invited us all the way down to Puerto Rico. Now, we beat them in the semifinals, and we beat Jersey City in the finals. During that, I was the most valuable player of the tournament, and I was a two-time All-American, and it was a great game.
And that's where you get that title, Mr. Biddy.
Well, I guess you can call it that. I mean, some people was called Mr. Biddy way before I was because of the style of the game. Mike Marshall would be one of them.
And from that, you actually were in Sports Illustrated, Faces in the Crowd, from that win there in Puerto Rico, right, as Mr. The World Champions.
Absolutely. With that, from the Sports Illustrated magazine, they also nominated me to be on the Merit Cup Award, which came at the same time when I was the International World Championship. Mind you, I also was a two-time All-American.
And from there, Eddie,
Then it goes further, into Chester High, high school, and then college.
And Can you tell us a little bit about college? You played at Cheney.
Yeah, up at Cheney, I was a transfer student, actually, from a junior college, Taylor Business School, small college. And I became to be small college All-American there. And then I went to Cheney. They redshirted me. And you can't imagine how many coaches I played with, well, who coached me. That was Hal Blipman, Tony Comer, and John Cheney. Within them 3 years that I played, I was a two-time All-Conference, two-time Pennsylvania, two-time All-State, and honorable mention All-American.
Who did you think, out of those three coaches, who was your favorite?
Well, that's a hard question there, but I have to say mainly John Cheney was. John Cheney was a very good coach.
And a tough coach.
And a tough coach.
Now, Eddie, what from Cheney, you did some teaching, you did some coaching. Where was that?
Well, I did a lot of teaching over at the junior high school in Chester High, but I never really got a chance to do any coaching for the high school, and that's one of my goals, which I'm hoping that I can get. And I also did a lot of coaching during the community, which we created an organization called Community Basketball Association. And that kind of grew until the school, the YMCA, faded out, and then we lost the whole program. Along with that, I was a supervisor, and I was teaching a slim living program that was added to the basketball and weightlifting.
So that's what you're doing at this time?
Yeah, that's presently what I'm doing now.
Well, Eddie, I want to say it's a pleasure to have you here today, and you're without a doubt one of the great ones from Delaware County in the sport of basketball. And I know it was always told, Eddie Swain he's not real tall. I mean, did you ever wish you were taller?
No. No, it was a God gift.
Right.
You know, but even before we leave, I want to mention a quotation that I made. And it goes like this, Rich. Money have wings, it flies away. Fame is vapor, it disappears. Those who cheer you today will curse you tomorrow. So the only thing that you have left that you can endure is your character.
Great words. Thanks, Eddie. It's a pleasure, man. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Travis Gray, and I'm the grandson of Junior May, James May, of James May Bridal from McDade Boulevard. As you know, my grandfather was the creator of the 2018 Super Bowl championship hat, and unfortunately he was not able to be here today. He had an unexpected family event he had to attend, but I'm here on his behalf. And what I would like to do is, on behalf of our family, is donate one of these hats to the Delaware County Museum for public display. So it will be presented to Mr. Van Koski in the Delaware County Museum.
Junior May also gave us this special podium, I guess I can call it that, to put he has a special name for this, the championship?
The Super Bowl championship hat, yeah.
Super Bowl championship hat. So we'll have this on display for the next few months anyway, probably till the end of football season. And I guess everybody's going to love getting their photograph taken with this cap on. I don't see any reason why not. So this is one of the collections. Thank you very much, Jeff. Appreciate it.
No problem.
All right, you can see the maquette. Am I pronouncing that properly? And that's the maquette that you see behind me of Fredia Gibbs. And that statue will be dedicated at some point in the 2020 year. And we're raising funds for that. I think there's going to be a dedicated website. And Frida undoubtedly is the greatest living athlete at the present time, if not ever of all time, from Delaware County. And she was just inducted into the Caprini University Hall of Fame yesterday, last night. We were so impressed with Fridia's closing remarks 2 years ago that I asked Fridia to repeat that this time. So Fridia, you're on.
Is this the mic right here?
Yeah.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me? Fantastic. I hope everybody's having a great time tonight. Welcome to Radnor, Pennsylvania, here at the Sports Legends Museum here in Delaware County. Perfect. Okay, I'm sorry. So I always like to start off with a joke. Make this short. Walmart, the potato section. I'm sure you guys heard about this story here. Back there in New Jersey, somebody caught the lady in Walmart peeing on the potatoes. Did y'all hear about that? Did you hear about that? Yeah, I know. So guess what? They're no longer potatoes, they're pea-tatoes. I just had to say that. That was kind of funny. But anyway, is this the mic right here? Okay. My message is this right here. First of all, thank you, Jim Vankowski, for giving me this opportunity to speak today. I really appreciate it. Amongst these unbelievable, phenomenal legends of Delaware County, I'm trying to tell you, we need to make a movie for ESPN for the great athletes that we have here in Delaware County, you know, who have started in Delaware County and went out in the world and came back and done some phenomenal things, because we got the best, Delaware County, PA, we got the best athletes in the world all in one group. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. And I'm honored to be amongst you guys. Moving forward there, so they see your success, but they don't know your struggle. They see your glory, but they don't know your story. Everybody wants to become a world champion, right? To become a world champion, I'll never forget me telling my grandma this, my mom. Everybody wants to become a world champion. Become a world champion, first of all, you got to change your mindset. Ain't that right, Joe? You got to change your mindset, right? By changing our mindset, that means that we, as world champions, professional athletes, we have to get rid of all negative behavior. Isn't that how we think? Once we get rid of all that negative behavior, all the right things begin to happen in our lives. Isn't that how it goes? We start saying the right things, we start doing the right things, and we start making the right things happen, because as the universe does the same thing for us as well. Isn't that how that goes? Isn't that how us champions think? Right? Okay, super. Service. I want to share this with you. I had an opportunity to work with Denzel Washington on the movie Hurricane Carter, getting him in shape for it. And I would always say, man, D, because he would always come in with his white Lamborghini playing Tupac, you know, and I was just really fascinated with him. So I was like, man, D, you know, I want what you got. You know, and he was like, well, I want what you got. And I was confused. I said, what you mean? He said, because you got that world championship belt. He said, not once have I won that Emmy Award. And that's what I want. He said, that championship belt that you won will provide you. I'm sorry. Thank you. That championship belt gives you an opportunity to provide service. And it kind of confused me. Service? I said, with that Lamborghini you got, and those fine cars and all that money you got in the bank, and that big house you got there in Hollywood Hill, I want that. You know what Denzel said to me? I'll never forget it. He said, listen to me, Fridia. He said, George Washington Carver said, all the clothing, fine clothing in the world, all the money in the bank, all the fancy cars that we drive means nothing, because we can't take it with us when we leave here. Denzel said, George Washington Carver said, it's pretty simple. It's simple. Service. Service to our people is our greatest measure of success. Does that make sense to you? Service is our greatest measure of success. Moving forward, I want to talk about mistakes. As world-class athletes, we all know about making mistakes. That's how we became world-class athletes. We made the mistake, we went back to the drawing board, reassessed, and came back, right? We fell down, we came back. Mistakes are so important to us in our lives because they teach us, they help us to grow, they educate us on life learning lessons. Oftentimes, mistakes can take you where no man or woman has ever gone before, but you got to stay in tune, saying and doing and making all the right things happen. Lastly, why is it that whenever somebody or a winner or somebody is winning, people hate on you? Why is it in life that we always have to have this sparring partner? Anything that we do, somebody got something negative to say. Why is it that? We call them haters. Does anyone know why? A hater, for example, excuse me for a second. Prime example with haters. In life, what I've learned is we all have this sparring partner that is constantly fighting us, trying to block us, stop us, steal, destroy, keep us from being the dream, keep us from doing God's will, living our best lives. We all have them. We all know someone that has them, okay? One of the saddest things that reality is what we must face about life is that everybody and not everybody's going to be happy for you. Isn't that sad? Isn't that sad? Not everybody's going to be happy, but you're going to have those group of people who are going to be happy for you. But the people who are not going to be happy for you when you shine, they're haters because they can't stand to see you when you're shining. They can't stand to see you when you're having a better life for yourself. They hate the fact when you get a better car or a better job. I mean, you know why haters exist? And the reality is we have to have them. Haters are such an integral part of our journey forward that you can almost categorize them. Now that we have experience, we can categorize haters, right? Sure we can. By that I mean, for example, my mom was a hater. She was the toughest one for me. She made me hater-proof as a young child. Now when I experience people hating, whenever there's a big goal or dream coming up, it doesn't faze me anymore because it lets me know that God got something good for me. The stronger the storm, the stronger the hate, the greater the blessing. Isn't that how it goes? Yeah? Isn't that how it goes? And that's what I've learned. If an event or project coming up and I don't have no hate or negative energy, I say to myself, wait a moment, this ain't gonna work. Because ain't nobody hating. That makes sense to you? You know what I mean, right? Right, Joe? Yeah, exactly. So we got haters who will smile at you as they plot your demise, like you don't feel their negativity. You know, we have haters who won't let you forget about the past, etc. But the reality is, you know, we all have those negative voices and friends who are very negative. Moving forward, all the negative drama that comes into our life, it's done for a reason. Only thing that I say to you is this here, as a world champion, etc., and we all are champions here, is that all the negative drama is enough to make you say in your dream, for your dream, I quit. Obviously, none of us here have quit. And that's the great thing about all of this here. Moving forward here, I just want to say, and this is, I just want to say that I thank God that I've been given this opportunity to be here. I thank God that, you know, Jennifer Fudowski and the statue team have decided to create this statue for me. I thank God that I hope to be alive to witness the unveiling, and I hope and pray that all of you are there as well, because we are all are a team, and we all are a part of the Delaware County Sports Legends Museum. So I wish you guys the best. Thank you. One more thing. My mom said the best way to beat a hater is by keep winning. So this is what I want to share with all y'all. Y'all just make sure y'all keep winning, okay?
That's it from the 2019 Delaware County Sports Legends Museum Luncheon. See you next year in 2020. For Jim Vankowski, I'm Rich Pagano. See ya.